Vanessa is an energetic facilitator, mindfulness coach, and a branding doula living and working in New York City. She's a light arts founder and she sees holistic clients on a one to one basis in person in Manhattan. She also offers virtual sessions. When she's not seeing clients, she offers branding services to business owners. A profound spiritual awakening triggered a shift in her consciousness and the beginning of a new era in her life. Since then, the process of transformation and reconnection to her true nature and purpose unfolded. And that ultimately led her to leave the corporate world, embrace her healer side, and follow her intuition to share her knowledge and practice. How you doing?
Good, thank you. That sounded so important.
How's
Yeah.
everything over there?
Yeah, good. Last night I arrived back from the Andes. I was in the
Oh,
mountains
wow.
for the past 4 days. I was on a solo trip. I went on my own. So see if you are on Instagram, you see I have been putting a lot of like information about fun facts and my own, journey over there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
How
if
do
you
you feel?
ever amazing. Oh, the energy there and also the place is stunning. Wish to, I'll tell you where to go if you wanna, unwind your mind, distress, just being silent with nature, have good food, all organic,
Yeah, yeah.
recharge.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
that's the place.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Nature, or even if you think you won't like it, it's boring. Some people think it's too
No.
quiet. You will always have you always recharge even if you don't think, because you are in that environment. You will absorb the free, the freedom, the energy, everything. Said it was like doing the full circle when I went back, because that's where I'm from and life took me there. And then when I came back from doing being in the mountains and I went back to New York, that's when I started sharing my story for real. Because before I was, telling here and there, not really talking about it. But then I thought, no, in order to reach out to people, I really need to communicate this, because it's not like I was born, like, oh, I know how to work with energy and I'm a calm person or I'm fine, there's a journey. There's a reason why I
Yeah.
do what I do.
And also, I think New York, you wanted to tick New York because, I mean, what more mainstream than New York, right? New York's like Tokyo. You went to a place that you wanted to really change by the millions and you really wanted to make a huge difference. So I feel like that's why you probably went to New York also is, you wanted to make a big impact with your abilities.
Yeah, funny enough, I didn't choose New York. It was because of my husband's work.
Okay.
They sent him there
But still,
and I just came along.
yeah, but it's still, for me, it seems like synchrony, like you needed to be. If you didn't tell me that story about your husband, I would have said 100% you chose it for that reason because, you have a calm demeanor, but you have a fire inside
Mhm.
to make a big difference. You have a
Yes.
determination, like you come from a town and you want to be the one that people remember that you made a huge difference, not for your ego, but for making an impact to change lives. And I think that's where you
Mm.
get your excitement, your passion from.
Yeah, it could be. As I said, I end up living there. Might be that energetically things orchestrated and move in a way that we end up in New York for, as you said, maybe share the message or tell the story. But yeah, I feel like I'm only starting in a way, even though I've been doing it for years. But I feel like now I'm really preaching what I teach, like
Yeah,
sharing my story and
yeah,
being true to myself.
yeah.
No, because not from my ego, but because I just need to be authentic. And if I want to teach that to people, I feel like it starts with my own heart. I really need to share what happened with me before that led me to this path.
And it's interesting. I like the same thing with me. I've been doing somatic healing and energy, reading for years, and I always wanted to do, a page. And I started in July of last year, and it's just amazing. Like it does kind of mold you a little bit. Like you started your page, I'm sure you felt it. Like it does, it changes your outlook in a positive way. It makes things nice. You know, you start to actually say things that are always in your head. You know about them, but now you have an outlet to actually speak about it. People respond to you. For me, it was
Mm.
like transformational for me. Like it really made something more concrete for me that, yeah, I have something here. I know what I'm doing, and people are really understanding it and seeing it and making it, it's making a difference. And it's changed my
Yeah.
outlook on like, I can, get me more motivated. I can do this. I can really help people make a difference with this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like one of the self journey, our own journeys is like bypass those thoughts that we have that we cannot do it, we've never done it,
Yeah.
who are they going to, people are going to say about me, all those, little voices around us that, it's like, sadly, in a way, it's the way this world works. And, it's like, follow this path and you have to do and achieve these things. And when someone does something different, it's like, oh, you're like the black sheep or you're strange. And, it's almost like if you want to really show up as yourself, you need to be ready for, just to be a little bit different
Yeah.
and embrace that because that's what makes us unique.
It's almost like a person that wants to become a speaker, but they have, a public speaker and they have a big traumatic story that they want to tell. Maybe they got sexually abused and they think it's so big and so dangerous. And then when they finally start speaking and they do it for like a year, they're like, what was I so worried about? That's how I felt. Like, what was
Yeah.
I so worried about? It wasn't that big a deal to start my own page, and everybody's so like-minded and welcoming. And I always made it like more bigger than it is. And I think that's what kind of took me from up here and just brought me down. Like, it's fine. You're out there. You're helping people. I
Yeah.
was always worried about telling my story and sharing, but it's a lot of healing in that too. You know?
Oh, for sure. I found exactly that as you share is also healing for ourselves
Yeah.
because it's almost like accepting it finally and integrating it. Because there was a time in my life that I wanted to forget everything bad that happened, everything that was sad or challenging. I just wanted to forget about that. And someone told me, you cannot forget it because that's part of you. You have to integrate it. And when you accept that part of you, because thanks to that challenge, that pain, that whatever happened, you are who you are. So you have to accept it as part of you. So only when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like, how can I be authentic and help people if I'm not embracing the challenges that help me
Yeah.
and become who I am, right?
And it feels so big. I don't know why, as society, we're taught to hold it in, not speak about, I was always embarrassed to say I went to therapy and,
Mm,
even when I started Instagram, embarrassed to talk about my struggles of how bad I was, and
yeah.
just people have to learn, anybody watching this has to learn that, you have to
Mm,
speak your mind. There's so much healing in speaking out your truth. And like you said, your authentic self comes out even more when you finally kill, like
yeah.
in the movie, in the documentary Finding Joe, they talk about
Mm.
killing your dragon. You have to kill your dragon.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, and they
Okay.
and they say you can kill your dragon over and over and over again, and you kill your dragon so that you can rebirth, like a phoenix, you come back up again.
Mm. Yeah, that completely resonates with me. Yeah, I never heard the story about the dragon, but yeah, that's cool. Or the
Yeah,
phoenix. I really like that
yeah,
as
you kill
well.
your
Hmm.
dragon so that we all have dragons that run our lives that we're afraid of, that we use coping strategies, and we just kill
Hmm.
it. And the way you kill it is not by running away; it's by speaking out, saying, "Hey, I got sexually
Yes.
abused."
I always talk about
IVF,
three. Uh, well, we did four IVF, but three tries.
natural.
And no, three IVF.
Oh,
Natural never happened. Like I've never been pregnant ever in my life, which
gotcha.
is a mystery. No one knows why. So
Mm.
we try IVF four times. Three of those, it was implanted like a healthy embryo and all that,
Oh, okay.
but they didn't last. There was one that lasted longer. Maybe that's the one that you
Got
remember.
traumatized.
But
Okay.
yeah, but they never. We always talk about our three angels, and I actually have a tattoo of them, representation on my arm, because there were three, and under my beliefs, even though they never had a body, they had a soul. And they came to me or to us, to Mark and I, to teach us something in this life. So that's why we consider them as part of our family. So if we ever adopt or have a baby in the future, it won't be our first child. It will be our fourth child.
That's nice. Can we break it down more? Because anybody watching that's
Yeah.
been through, it helps. Everything helps.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So how long did the three last, like inside when they were implanted?
Uh, Not long at
How
all. It was
long?
just a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
It was very short, and that's what triggered, because that was around my awakening, 2019,
Uh,
2020, around the pandemic actually. And that's what triggered my self-discovery and my willingness to learn why this body was not doing what it was meant to do. If science was saying you're healthy, you look great, you don't have depression, you don't have this, you don't have that, we don't know what's going on. It's a mystery. And when we wanted to get more tests done, they were like, basically like, we don't know. That was it.
wow. So where?
And that's it. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. So where was your mindset? Were you very like you were in the fashion world? So where was your mindset then? Were you like, you can do no mistakes? Did you have a big ego at the time? Like, you're the top fashion person for 17 years. Did you feel like you were above people, or, your ego was really like injected really good that when your body didn't cooperate, that took a hit
Mhm.
for you?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I had this perfect girl, huge label. I migrated to Australia. I did a master's degree. I went back to the industry. I had a
Yeah.
great job, success, praise for my talents, good relationship, great. Everything was like next box, tick, tick, tick.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly we reached this point that we wanted to have babies, and it just didn't happen. And it was a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the trigger for my awakening, because it crumbled my ego, my character. It was like, she's not perfect anymore. She can't do, tick the next box. I was in an industry that is all about appearance as well,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was never the person that will act different with
Yeah,
people
but
at work, I was always the same.
the
But
freelance hairstyling world, same thing, fashion world,
mm,
everybody's got the cool tattoos and the cool hairstyle and
specific way, you look in a specific way. It's almost like, I mean,
exactly.
now I consider that I was playing a character,
Hmm.
basically. I was myself, but I had like all these
Yeah.
masks and layers in front of me,
Oh,
that it was like, I feel like a lot of people have, in a way, you have a mask that you wear or a character that you play. So when this happened to Mark and I, more to me, it was this like denial, like, no, this is not happening to us. We didn't tell anyone, yeah, because I said, oh, we thought, okay, next round is going to work. Next month is going to work. So
that
why
was
would we share that is, we're failing in our mind, or in my mind? He was always open. He was always saying, let's just tell parents, tell friends, let's just be open. And it was me that it was like, no, it's going to work, let's just keep doing it. And
yeah.
it just didn't work, because I didn't want to remove this mask of the perfect girl that everything works fine. I was in the total denial of obviously suffering. It was like really hard, but I was also like hiding. I was going to work, socializing, everything, but I was acting like everything was totally fine. And then I was going home, or every time that we were going to the doctors, I was crumbling. I was like in the dark hole, extremely painful, because, your mind start telling stories like you're failing, guilt, shame, like what's wrong with me, what's wrong with my body, what the matter
Disappointment,
if I look,
disappointment for your husband.
disappointment as well, like I'm not good enough, all these things. And from his side also, we did couples therapy for quite a while, because it was from my side and his side. And he,
Yeah.
as a male, he thought that he needed to be strong for me, because I was always, crying and feeling like bad.
Yeah.
And then on his side, he always needed to be strong. And then during couples therapy, we realized that he also needed to crumble, but he couldn't, because he was playing this role of like the rock in the relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting how, it affects both, not only one person.
It's like everything is dormant, with old memories. It goes in the Pandora's
Mm,
box, and then when
mm.
a traumatic event happens, those Pandora box open. So
Oh,
something in his
totally.
childhood, like he was, maybe not good enough or strong enough, and he didn't fight off people, and people laughed at him, and then that all gets opened up,
Mm,
and it
exactly,
just, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and you're totally right because as I mentioned, that opened the Pandora box as you just mentioned. And first it was like the guilt and the shame and what is wrong with this body and why I cannot be the perfect girl anymore. Expectation was a huge thing for me because I had a lot of expectations about myself and also living according expectations of family, society, peers. And so when all that started crumbling, and that's when I started going to, do therapies and sessions and all sorts of things, trying to find answers.
Mhm.
And yes, my inner child came, of course, because, when I had anxiety and that triggered huge anxiety for me every time that I was going to doctors, every time that we were doing therapies or operations and all these things. And then I realized that it came from my childhood, which I completely forgot.
Mhm.
And so that's because it was related to the womb that triggered also my relationship with the womb healing. Now I'm a woman health facilitator because of that reason,
Wow.
because I wanted to understand what's relationship between the womb and energy in women. And
Mhm.
so that led me to do a lot of lineage work, honor my ancestors, my mom, my grandma, find out a lot about my family tree. I found out a lot of information that I had no idea, a lot of secrets, because I just was willing to know more. So I asked questions to my parents, to my grandparents. And at first, it was some resistance because, there's some stories that they don't want to talk about because, it's part of their own
Old
journeys.
school. Yeah.
So the interesting thing was that at first they were like, "Why do you want to talk about that? That was years ago, and that was so sad."
They don't know.
And and I had to not say once, but quite a few times, this is not about you. I understand that you did the best that you could. It's not to blame you. It's not
Yeah.
to say it was wrong or you did
Yeah.
bad for me. This is about me and my own journey. And the only way that I can heal and understand my childhood or when I was a kid is through you because you had the eyes that I didn't have. And so I opened that door of communication that we didn't have.
That's
Because,
so
if you
smart.
think about it, you talk to your parents, but many times it's just surface, it's just like every day, whatever.
But
But you can go to,
everything is pushed down though. Everything is pushed down, And you
yeah,
talk,
exactly.
like when before I met my wife, I used to talk through a way of all this stuff inside me, not feeling pure, but talking to my mom. But even though I had, preconceived anger about her, I was upset with her about my past. And then my wife told me, like, I had lists of, I told my mom everything. I said, "You did this to me." I went to my mom's house twice with a long list, and she didn't
Mm,
respond the way I wanted to, but I got it all out. My wife's like, "You need to heal this because you're talking through this drama, and that's what you did. You went back
mm,
and you needed to heal this because you had to understand." But it's similar where I'm sure you gave
mm,
them a couple of words of like, "Why did you do it this way? Why didn't you treat me better?" Like those are the healing moments that, you have to go back and heal. You have the access, you have the family members so quick. You go there, you talk to them, and you get
mm.
healing so fast.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting thing is that no one told us that we could do that, right? In school, even I think is, in my personal opinion, it's not really common to see that you go and have a very deep meaningful conversations with your parents or grandparents. I remember I asked my mom, "Did you ever ask questions like this to your mom?" And what she said was, it's just not what we used to do. Like you have your parents up there and the children here, but we didn't have a communication. We'll never question our parents. We
Hmm.
would just do what the parents told us to do, and that was it. So when I was asking her questions, she was like, Wow, I don't know about my mom. Like she didn't even know. And my grandparents have passed now. I only have one grandma now. And it's interesting how, that it's almost like we know the character that they play. Like we know the dad and the mom and the auntie and the grandma, but we don't know the individual. Like what were their dreams? What was their life
Yeah.
like? Were you doing what you wanted to
No.
do? What were your dreams? Things like that. It's
Yeah.
like
Plastic.
I wish I could talk to my grandparents. They are gone now, but to ask them these beautiful questions,
Yeah.
to get to know them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when I ask my mom all these things, she doesn't really like, she didn't like to talk about any of that stuff. She was just like, okay, all right. I mean, it's just, I think it's a cultural thing, passed down from
Mm,
generation to generation. You don't ask questions about, because that's a sense of weakness. When I went to therapy for 9 years,
yes.
my big thing was being vulnerable. I could not be vulnerable. They kept telling me over and over that I was in a group too. And they were like, Joe, you got
Mhm.
to be vulnerable. And I'm like, no, I'm macho. I'm vulnerable for babies. I don't do vulnerable, and that's the big thing. Like, men could be vulnerable. You guys can be vulnerable. And, when I accepted the vulnerability, I went into the group and I said to myself, I have to be more vulnerable. I'm going to be like a naked in front of a pack of wolves. And I kept the
Mhm.
mentality. It was so scary to stay vulnerable, but you don't even know what happens. You create this inner strength through completely freeing yourself. Like you're the same way. You completely free yourself and then you stay free and you don't worry about, putting on faces and masks. And then you create this other person that comes out. And everybody that talks to me always says, what you see is what you get. You just, like my sister's not at all. She puts on a mask all the time. And I learned that through just completely learning how to just stay vulnerable and living in that world. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't do. And that's it. So just, being vulnerable, like, what you did is like so next level. Like people talk about strength as somebody who picks up rocks and goes off on people and yells at people. Strength is approaching, like the scariest thing for me for strength was talking to my mom about what she's done to me. I'm sure that was so strong for you. Like you went over there and you
Mm,
told your grandparents, like, you know, what happened? Why are you guys commuting? How scary is that, right? It was probably so scary because you know that
yeah.
you're not going along with the script, You're not going to that road. You're making a left and you're taking another road, and they're like, old school cultural parents and family, they're not like that. It's like you stay down this road. You don't go left or
Mm,
right. So that strength is being vulnerable, is, talking to your family, your parents, and tell them, I don't appreciate that. I had one girl I was helping. She was so scared to talk to her mom about stuff. I'm like, what? I'm like, you could tell her how you feel. And she's like, I don't know. I'll see how I feel about it.
yeah.
The healing happens
Yeah.
when you start facing and you start changing your routine.
Completely agree. Yeah. When we work with energy, it's the same because sometimes we always do the same thing, go in the same path, and the same patterns start happening. And then the moment you choose different and you go to the left or the right, the pattern completely changes. The energy start flowing in a different way. So that's when changes start happening because you're just not letting your mind get in the way that tell you, no, 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 you need to stay in this path because that's the right thing to do. This is what is expected from you.
Yeah.
And most of the time people stay on that path because they are afraid of what are they going to say if I go to the left or to the right. That was even a big thing for me when I stepped down from the corporate world and think, okay, am I going to go into this holistic therapy path, which I'm the first one in my whole family. To my knowledge, no one did it before, and I have a family of like engineers and admin people and lawyers. It's like,
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
started changing, I was like even to break my own paradigm of, okay, am I really going to do it? So that's why my business even started really shy because I was still working with my own limitations that didn't allow me to break free from
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
But once I did it, oh my God, Joey, I felt pure freedom, like
Strong too. Very strong.
strength, freedom. Yeah, it just feels so
And,
liberating. It's
and then once
amazing.
you do that, it's like you break down the wall and like now you want to break down more walls. You're like, you know what? I just did the biggest thing in my life and I survived. Let's do more. And you get like addicted to like
Yeah.
wanting to do more and wanting to break down more walls and create new paths for yourself. And
Hmm.
that's the whole story of, like finding Joe is now you found this. Now you go back to your town and you tell everybody, no, don't be like the engineer, like grandma or, auntie. You do what you look what happened to me. And then they get inspired by you. And that's that.
Yes, exactly. Through my journey, you might also be familiar with the term cycle breaker. And I remember when I came across that, I was like, oh my God, this is totally what I'm trying to do here because I was breaking so many, it was just generational trauma and drama that generation to generation. And when I found out stories, I was the
Mhm.
one that I decided to talk about it and ask the questions and, face those fears that everyone just ignored for years because it was like no one wanted to be vulnerable and talk about it. And then I was the one that asked the question and did the healing and just started to find out so much information, and to me it was healing for me and I know it was healing for them because when you do ancestry work in energy you are healing them. Doesn't matter that they are not around, doesn't matter that they have been gone for years, centuries even, you are still healing them. When
Mhm.
someone grabs this torch and says, here I end this with right now, you are, it's almost like they come to you and start with their energy, you perceive them and they are with you walking the path. It's amazing. That happened to me. Even I had experiences with my great grandparents, which I never met. They are
Yeah.
just, and yeah, it's really interesting
Wow.
when you say yes to all these realm of possibilities of energetics and consciousness. Yeah, it's really cool.
Why do you think people have a hard time with breaking the mold? And is it the habit that's just so strong? Is it the culture that, because I know Asian culture is really strong with, the parent dictates to the child, you got to be a doctor, you got to be this, this, and this.
Mm.
So is it the fear of like disappointment that we don't want to take a new road to healing, like what you did talking to your family about the story of their family? That doesn't happen all the time. We don't question things. We just, like you said, we go along with everything. We keep it
Yeah.
plastic, like a TV show, like a sitcom. Like, you know them, there's nothing else. You don't need to know the deep stuff. You just laugh and you enjoy the character. But
Hmm.
to want to break it, do you think like that's DNA? That's because I've always been the inquisitive type. Even when I was young, I wanted to understand how the toys were made. Why do am I going to church all the time? What's behind it? Like, is it DNA? Is it how you're structurally made? Is it fear of breaking the culture? Is it like brainwash from the family to say if you do this, you're a black sheep? Maybe a little bit of everything.
I feel like it's a little bit of everything, and everything that you have mentioned is related to belief systems and what other people call them as programming from childhood.
Mm,
And it's basically because when we come to exist as babies, we are energetic beings. Even our channel is completely open, connected. So they are babies, even though they cannot talk and they can even see at the very beginning, they can absorb the energy of places.
mm,
So the moment they are born, they are already absorbing culture, family, patterns,
mm.
language,
Wow,
everything. Tone of voice, because that's also energetics, the tone
wow,
of your voice, the
wow.
things that you say. And so as you keep growing and you then start talking and observing, if you are born like a very aware child, which seems like you are and I was also, you recognize body language, you start understanding, if I do this, that happens, if I behave that way, that happens. If you are don't want to stress the family, you become this little character that, oh, I'm going to be a good girl then because I
Mm,
don't want anyone to be bad or anyone to be upset. Or and some people are the opposite, they start going to the rebel side to create more chaos. That it just depends of the person. Like I was a very, very shy kid, and later on I realized that it was because I was so aware that I became this little quiet, little observant, just looking at everything. And so belief systems are usually what limits the person. So when we become an adult, we have years of programming, years of observing and acting in a way according to our family, according to religion, school, friends, peers. You want to fit in. We live in a society that tells us that we have to fit in, we have to look similar, we have to act similar. If
Hmm.
someone acts different, oh, that's the rebel. That's, is like creating something that is too different. You become the strange, the witch, the shaman, all those names that over
Yeah.
centuries have all these charge. That's a completely different story, but just to,
Yeah.
visualize what I mean.
Yeah.
And so when you come to a moment in your life that you want to choose different, it's very hard because you have been and it's like you have a program running in your mind that tells you you cannot be different, you have to be here, you have to
Mhm.
fit in, you have to follow family expectations,
Yep.
this is what you believe in. If you do something different, they're going to judge you, and that's very strong for us people. We are really really scared of being judged by others and by ourselves.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Like it's a lot. So if you want to break from that, it's not easy. You have to work with that and try to remove that belief system that is limiting you. Yeah.
And I'm sure you experience it too. When I work with clients, I'll show them exactly what they have, and they're like, "Wow, when can I book you? Wow, yeah, I need you. I need to help me." And they get motivated, and then the next few days, they distant off. They don't contact because
Mm-hmm.
they know this is good. But like you said, the programming is so much stronger that
Yes.
the programming takes over. Now if I go the way Joey taught me, that sounds kind of interesting. I don't have enough evidence. Then I have to break the family love. I have to be called a black sheep. I might be made fun of and laughed at. And if they have a trigger from childhood that they were laughed at, that's gonna kick up. And they're
Oh,
like,
for
no, no, no.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. The brain wants you to be safe. The brain doesn't
Yeah,
want you
exactly.
to
That's
go
exactly what
anything.
happened.
Yeah. It wants you to keep the same pattern. And
Yeah.
now that my mom's gone, my mom was a big pillar of fear. My mom created a lot of fear for us. She wanted the pattern the way she liked it. She liked everything her way. Even when my sister went to India or Thailand, she was like, "Don't tell mom. I'll tell her at the end." I'm like, "You're 50 years old. What do you mean? Don't tell mom we're going to Thailand?" So, that's another thing where somebody's really controlling in the family, and to hear them lose their shit, or my mom used to say, "Oh, you're gonna give me a heart attack." I shaved my head when I was in early 30s, and she's like, "Now you're gonna do drugs. You're gonna give me a heart attack." I didn't care. I was like,
Yeah, so that exactly it's an example of a belief system that says that a person that have shaved the head is going to get tattoos.
"Yeah,
Like when I started getting my tattoos, because I got quite a few, uh, I heard similar stories. My grandma, oh, I can't even remember, but
yeah,
they
you're gonna
were,
go down. Yeah, you're gonna go down."
it's like, that is a judgment. They are judging you because you are doing something different. Because in their mind, they learn at some point in their own life that the fact that someone has a tattoo means that the person, for example, it's a I don't know, a thief or someone bad
Get on drugs,
or get on drugs.
robbing or stealing.
Robbing, yeah, it has like a bad connotation. The interesting thing is that in some of the work that I do that is under the umbrella of access consciousness, we don't judge. So because when you judge for good or for bad, you are judging something. When you put something in a bucket that says this is good or this is bad, you are already labeling as something.
No good.
So as a healer or as someone that practice energetics or any type of healing therapy, you need to remain neutral and just think that everything that you are hearing from your client is neutral, or it's just interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting that they are giving me this information, and I usually work with open question. And what does that feel to you? And we just keep revealing and removing all these layers until we get into something, deeper, or not
Yeah.
deeper, but it's just the energy is perceived by, okay, there's more here. It's not here because sometimes clients come and they said, oh, I want to work with this, whatever, I don't know, I'm having trouble at work. is like the surface with, belief systems and what is that coming from. And then you start realizing, oh no, because that comes from when my mom said that. Okay, and then that comes from when I was 5, or
Yeah.
or like, so it's just like a road that you have to go with your client until you reach the root cause, basically, the belief system. Where was that created?
But see,
And
that's
that's,
the yeah, but see, that's the thing though. I know you were probably like me, where when I shaved my head, I wasn't thinking any of that. It happened after the fact. When I shaved my head, I just wanted to shave my head. I didn't care. When you got
yeah.
tattoos, the stuff came after. You probably weren't thinking, oh, now my grandma's gonna be upset. That's what makes it kind of interesting. Like, why are some
Mhm.
people just don't care? You know, did we break the barrier earlier? Because I was already doing hair, I did comedy, I've done all these like off the wall stuff that I don't care what my family thinks. And I've been
Mm.
acting, and I've always been like that. So it's just, I think there is a part of it that's genetical that you just you have the sensation so much stronger than the fear of
Mhm.
judgment, you know?
Oh, for sure. But for example, in my case, I wanted to get tattoos for years, but I never did it because
Okay.
of that reason. Oh,
Uh,
they are going to judge me. It doesn't look whatever. It's not the expected thing. Doesn't look good. Whatever I had in my mind.
yeah,
And
yeah.
only when I started doing my own healing and I had my awakening, that's when I started getting tattoos. As a like only 5, 6 years ago.
So
Before I was not doing it.
after
I
the
was not.
IVF, after the IVF incidents,
Yeah, so the IVF was in 2020, 2019,
oh, so
2020.
before that you had the tattoos already.
No, around
Oh,
that same time, because my
okay.
tattoos, a lot of my tattoos have message, like is they have meanings, like each
Yeah,
of them have a specific meaning. And the first one that I did, it was during the IVF, and it's in Spanish. It's called "Así estaba escrito," which means it was written. So to me, it was my story, at a higher level. It's like it's a reason why this is happening.
yep,
It's written in the stars, in genetics, in DNA, whatever you believe in.
yeah.
But that to me, that was the first one that I did because it had a big meaning for me. But yeah, from there, and then that's when I started doing my own thing. I didn't care anymore. But before, up until that point, my whole life, it was like I'm doing things
Isn't that amazing?
because parents said, because expected, because I should do it, because I'm pleasing people.
Yeah,
Big
it's
people pleaser I
amazing.
was as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing. Like one profound darkness brings so much light, you know? It's just like,
Mm.
I bet you if you do it all over again, you'll probably do it the same way because it took
Oh,
you out
yeah.
of your shell. You became alive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
profound moment was at 33. I had this OCD of trying to, I did a lot of weird things. I used to pace around in my house with these messages I used to tell myself to make myself feel better. And I just had this thing where I felt like my brain was falling apart. And when that happened, I just became totally like everything opened up, all my fears, and I just fell apart. And through that,
Mm-hmm.
I started, I went down to the bottom, and then I started building up my foundation, like, and
Yes.
I wouldn't change it. Like then, if you told me back like 2 years later, I would be like, it's such a tragedy. I would never tell this story. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, what a beautiful gift. And I just
Oh, for
wish,
sure.
yeah, I just wish people would see. Like, I had one girl I was dealing with, and she's in total darkness with her worries, obsessive worrying, and she doesn't realize what a gift that is for her, an opportunity for her to rise up. And I told her, I said, you can be a motivational speaker. You get through this, you can help people and you can inspire people with this. Like people don't realize when they're down like that, there's so much growth that can come from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. The interesting thing is that a lot of people have this what is this called? When you think you don't have what it takes,
Yeah.
like imposter syndrome. You don't know. It's like, oh, I don't know. Who am I to start telling my story? No one is going to listen to me. But the interesting thing is that that's like the ego saying, oh, no one is going to listen to me. But when you are through your journey, no one really needs to listen to you. You're just doing it because it's for you. It's not for people. And then eventually it gets to people. But at first, to me at least, it was for my own healing. I was
Yeah.
sharing it because I needed to do it. I remember the very first time I did a reel telling a little bit of my story.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it took me a really long time to press that button to post.
Yeah, yeah.
It felt so
And then
big.
you were
And
probably like,
then,
ah, yes, ah, yes. It's that
yeah, and
combination
then
of
when,
what was I doing? Okay, it feels good.
yeah, now just last night I was posting things and I was like nothing, just like telling the story, posting, like, it just, and it just feels so much freedom to just tell the story and maybe hoping that someone that is, in that dark place might see, okay, I can go, I can do it. If these people did it, I can maybe do it. Because when you are going through challenges, sometimes you think that no one else is going through the same. You feel
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
alone and isolated. You don't want to tell anyone, you want to
Yeah.
keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
So it can feel like, oh, no one understands me. I used to feel that. It's like, what would I say? No one is going to understand what I'm
Yeah.
going through.
Yeah. When I go to the train, I took one train station not too long ago, and that was the main train station in New York that I used to go to my therapy at night. And, there's muscle memory. So, I went to the area and I already felt the old me when I was going up those stairs. And 80% of it is like you just feel like you're broken. Like, I'm going to therapy. Who's like this? Nobody else is like this. I felt all this as I was going up the same steps to go up the train on the 7 train. And I was just like,
Yeah,
damn, it's just like you start to realize like you torture yourself with this mindset. And I tell people, the clients I work with, I'm like, it's 85% you in your inner dialogue of how much you tell yourself society hates me. I'm not supposed to be like this. Anything can
yeah,
happen to you. The brain is so complex that you can do, so much crap can come to you.
for
OCD.
sure.
I saw stuff on this channel A&E. The girl didn't like to be touched, like even the mother hug her. So they put her in a chair and they tied her up, the therapist, and they all started touching her. And she was like, no, no. Anything can happen. Anything. And this is the people have to understand that it's okay. Whatever you have, it's okay. Other people probably have it too. And if they don't, it's
Hmm.
okay anyway.
Yeah.